Hello everybody, welcome to Midwest Imagery. Today I'd like to show you some examples of wildlife photography and talk a little bit about how you can start practicing with wildlife. Wildlife is around us everywhere. It can be highly specialized too if you're going after big game like elk and moose and grizzly bears and things like that. Then you need some pretty specialized equipment for that, which equates into some pretty hefty costs involved in photographing that stuff. Most of the wildlife photography I do is opportunistic. Everywhere you look, there's a picture to be made. And if you have your camera readily available and you come across a flock of geese or ducks on the water or birds at the feeder or animals sitting in the sun, anything, it's all around in your backyard. And that's generally where I find most of my stuff too, is in our yards. And I'll show you some examples of images I've made of wildlife that are all very close at hand. I carry two lenses in my bag. I use a 28-70 2.8 and I use a 70-200 2.8. And both of those lenses will get me pretty much every type of photography that I do, from product to portraits to sports to action. Every bit of photography I do is accomplished by those two lenses. And if I find that I need something different, then I'll just rent it. Anyway, let me get going here and I'll set up some of the examples of wildlife photography and I'll get right back to you. Okay, I'm back. When we are capturing wildlife images, we should look close to home. We maybe have state parks available to us, or wildlife areas, or farm fields, or national parks. As I said, if we're planning on shooting big game, then we're needing bigger, faster lenses. We'll want a camera body that's capable of higher ISOs, fast focus acquisition, fast frame rate, well sealed. We'll want a really sturdy tripod or a monopod to support the longer lenses. Sometimes you'll want to even have a gimbal head on there. But all this equates to greater expense too, unless you're wanting to specialize in that kind of wildlife photography, then the equipment available to us right now is more than adequate to make exceptional wildlife shots close to home. For an example, these goslings were walking down a city street in a residential area, and I was able to follow them enough where I can make several shots, and this is among one of my favorites of the grouping. Now, a couple of things about this picture. I'm using a very shallow depth of field because I don't need to see all of these geese in focus, and that gives me 125th of a second, which is more than adequate to stop this action here. But at the same time, I'm also getting down to the level of these animals, so it looks like we're looking right in on the scene as well. These little baby mergansers were on a pond in our yard, and Mama had parked them in a corner, and when she came back they all started flocking towards her, and I made this picture. I'm really close to being on the same level as these birds are. There's some nice reflections on this pond. There is separation, that no one of these heads are blocking any other part of the bird. So we see all parts of the birds equally. I'm at an ISO of 800 because it was kind of a little bit overcast and gave me 400th of a second at f4. And f4 is quite enough depth of field that starts blurring out the background, but still gives us really decent focus on the animals too, plus the reflection of all of the green foliage and vegetation coming off of the surface of this pond helps to add a little contrast and balance to the image. These little guys were on a big adventure. I was able to follow them around and watching what they were doing for quite some time. I was even able to go and get my 10-foot step ladder so that I could be up at their level when I'm making this shot. And they were all tuckered out. They climbed up here to take a little nap, and look at these little stubby tails. And this one right here is giving a big yawn. They ended up sleeping up here for a couple of hours before Mama came and got them. And this is right in the yard. Here's another shot taken in one of our gardens. I made this. The ISO was at 1,000 because it was kind of an overcast day. I'm using 5.6, gives me 250th of a second. I wanted to stop the bird, but not necessarily the wings on her. Again, right local, right in one of our gardens. This little red squirrel, when the red cedar berries are ready, the squirrels descend on this. All manner of wildlife does. And this guy was pretty high up in the tree, so I moved back a ways so that it appears that I'm closer to being right on his level, even though I wasn't, which makes it better than having to look kind of more straight up at the animal. We had some gray foxes living under our woodshed one year, and Daddy had just brought supper, and this is one of the little babies that came out to greet him. Now there's something in this image that bothers me, but I leave it in so that I can illustrate what I look for in pictures here. And in the foreground there were a bunch of daylily leaves right here, and this one is kind of intruding in on my picture here. There's a little bit right here. I could live with this one. This one kind of bothers me, but I leave it in here to show you what I look for when I'm making the pictures and what kind of things I want to try to, first of all, eliminate in camera. If I can reframe the shot so that I don't get that, then I will. But if I can't get the framing that I'm after, then I leave it in there and take it out later. This Cooper's hawk got one of the little red squirrels, and he's having his little dinner right here, right in our yard. You can see that he is on top of one of our bird feeders, carried this squirrel up here and just started disassembling it. This is what we call a toothed claw shot, nature in action. And it's really quite impressive watching this bird disassemble this red squirrel. If you have pets, you have a ready supply of subjects to practice your wildlife photography on. And these two, best of friends, they like to play around, and it makes it look like and sound like they're trying to shred each other apart, but they're not. Because shortly after they finish with their roughhousing, they'll curl up in a giant pup ball and snooze the rest of the day away. I'm going to stop right here for today. Let me get these put away and I'll be right back. Okay, there's a little bit about photographing wildlife. And no matter what your subject is, understanding the essential elements of photography allow us to make beautiful pictures of whatever we're pointing our cameras at. And those three essential elements are understanding the exposure triangle. The exposure triangle consists of the three exposure controls, the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. Metering and setting the controls for exposure, and understanding rules of composition. When we understand those, we can make beautiful pictures of anything. And I'm able to make the pictures that I make of any subject because I understand those three elements, and I'm working towards helping you get there also, because if I can do this, anybody can do this. So don't hesitate to leave any questions or comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.